Welcome to the VBAC Link podcast. We are a team of expert doulas trained in supporting VBAC, have had VBACs of our own, and work extensively with VBAC women and their providers. We are here to provide detailed VBAC and cesarean prevention stories and facts in a simple, consolidated format. When we were moms preparing to VBAC, it was stories and information like we will be sharing in this podcast that helped fine-tune our intuition and build confidence in our birth preparations. We hope this does the same for you. To hear more about us and to hear our individual VBAC stories, be sure to check out episodes 1, 2, and 3. The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is not meant to replace advice from any other qualified medical professional.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to episode 18. We have our friend Lindsay Taylor on with us today, and she messaged us on Instagram, and we are so excited to hear her VBAC journey. Something interesting about her story is that her VBAC baby was due on October 9th of last year, 2017, and one of her other children was about to enter the Boston Children's Hospital for a bone marrow transplant scheduled on October 16th. So just a week after her due date. I can't imagine the stress that kind of carried in with her, but we are excited to hear her story today and more about her journey. If you guys want to read more about her amazing adventure, check out her website because it's incredible. Her website is blendedfamilyadventure.com, and we will also leave those in the show notes.
Yes, we are so excited. You guys, first of all, me and Megan have figured out how to work our schedules together, so you're going to hear from both of us at the same time a lot more often. But let me tell you a little bit about Lindsay. She messaged me on Instagram, and she said, hey, I want to share my VBAC story with you guys. And I said, sure, tell me a little bit more about your story. And guys, when she started sharing her story with me, I seriously freaked out. Like she sent it to me in videos, and I didn't even finish watching the videos before I was on the phone with Megan just writing about her. You guys are going to absolutely love this story.
Lindsay, we would love to turn the time over to you and have you share your story.
Well, thank you very much. That was quite the introduction. Yeah, I'm Lindsay. I'm 33. I'll be 34 this month, and I have 6 kids. 4 of them I gave birth to personally, and I kind of have a unique birth story for each of them. And yeah, I've been through a lot. This year has been quite the incredible journey. I think the best way for us to begin is probably for me to tell you a little bit about my first child. Just really quickly, I had my first baby. Her name was Rachel when I was 16, way before MTV glorified teenage pregnancy. Just saying, it was kind of the time where pregnancy clothes were not pretty and people didn't quite understand how a teenager could be pregnant. It was a very grounding experience, and her birth was sort of magical. I kind of slept through it. I got really lucky. I woke up. It was time to push, 4 pushes in about 10, 15 minutes, and she was out. And basically we grew up together. So let's just fast forward on the remote up until I met Chris, who would become my husband, in 2010. And I knew that I really wanted to have more children, and Rachel always wanted to have another sibling. And we definitely fell in love really fast, and we got married after just knowing each other for 2 months. And nobody said it would last. Everybody said that we were crazy. Our families, we didn't even tell them. We got married in our kitchen. And, you know, we both had been married once before, and we just didn't want a big to-do. We just wanted to be married, make a family. So that's exactly what we did. And I would say about 4 months later, we miscarried. And Yeah, it was tough. I remember being real sad because it had been so many years, you know, like I was just so 100% set on starting this family. So it set us back. And I remember one of the doctors saying to us when looking at the ultrasound, I'm sorry, but this pregnancy is not going to stick. And I didn't quite understand that. To me, that left me feeling a little empty. Like what do you mean stick? Stick where? Stick how?
Yeah.
So I actually ended up having a DNC, which is, you know, the internal scraping of the uterus to remove the miscarriage. And it was a blighted ovum. It was just an egg that just didn't develop. So there was no baby. But the doctor said, get right back on the horse and don't let it get you down and try again. You're healthy, you're young, you have a beautiful daughter. Go ahead. So we did. And 4 months later, once again, 4 months of trying, I was pregnant with Lucas, and it was such a painful pregnancy. I feel like everything in my body hurt. He was punching me and kicking me from the inside. So we had this joke about him being strong and Finnish. So my ex-husband, Chris, said, we're going to call him Thor. And I said, no, we're not going to call him Thor. We're just not. We're going to give him his own identity. And he said, okay, then Anakin Skywalker. And I said, no. So I came up with Lucas. And when I came up with the name Lucas, I didn't even think of George Lucas from Star Wars. So Chris was very happy. So he ended up having a Lucas Thor. And when Lucas, when he was inside, I want to say about at 4 months gestation, I decided I wanted a doula. And we hired a doula. And she was incredible. And I was gung-ho. I was definitely going to have unmedicated, natural birth in a hospital setting here in Connecticut. Fast forward again, and I got to 4 centimeters dilation, and I was stuck, and I was in excruciating pain, and I gave in to my need for pain medication, and I did get an epidural. And let me tell you, the 20 minutes that it took for that man to show up with his needle was the longest 20 minutes of my life. But Chris got to assist. He caught Lucas coming out. My midwife and doula were great. It was a beautiful experience. We were all crying. I remember saying I could have 10 more babies. And I wanted to do it again and again. So that was really great. And then Joanna was next in 2015. So 2.5, almost 3 years later, we had Joanna, and she was small. And Lucas was 4 weeks early. Joanna was about 3.5 weeks early. I had to induce. I had this odd thing called cholestasis, which is this horrible itching and liver. It affects your liver. I think they check bile levels or something like that.
It's the enzymes or something, right?
Yes, and I was borderline, and I was sitting there itching my face with a comb, and they were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm just itchy, and I don't want to scratch myself too hard. And they're like, okay, this baby needs to come out. So we went in for induction, and I had to be induced with Lucas too. So I was no stranger to Pitocin. So I was like, all right, that's cool. So this doctor put a balloon, like a Foley balloon inside, and Joanna flipped in the middle of induction.
Whoa.
And the nurse wouldn't say it. Like I said, she moved, didn't she? And the nurse was like, let's just get the doctor in and do an ultrasound. And I was like, she moved. She moved, and I'm going to have a C-section. And this whole night just changed. I was so scared. It was so awful. Just the fear of a C-section. I didn't want one. And I knew that having Lucas and having a C-section recovery would not be good, because Lucas was a very attached, extended breastfed, co-sleeping baby boy. So what happened was I ended up calling my ex-husband at 4 a.m, and I said, please hurry, we're going to have a C-section. My midwife came in, and she said, you weren't supposed to have a C-section. You were supposed to sneeze this baby out. And I was just like, oh, gosh, here we are. There's no sneezing. Well, long story short, Joanna came out, and she was a peach. She was absolutely beautiful. We stayed 5 days. She was fine. I was fine. But a C-section recovery was horrible. It was 6 weeks for me. My incision opened. I bled a lot.
Oh my gosh.
I lifted Lucas on like day 4. He was like 40 pounds. I had no choice. Lucas is a very difficult child. So recovery for me was really, really hard. But once that was over, I was so afraid of my ex-husband going back to work. I was like, what am I going to do with 2 kids? Like, how do you mom 2 kids? I don't know how to do that. That was really scary. And then I remember the day he went back to work, I was like, oh, this is fine. I just hold the baby and chase Lucas around like crazy. I've got this. And it ended up being fine. I was tandem nursing for a while. And when Joanna was about 5 months old, she started sleeping through the night, which was amazing. And then Lucas got sick. So my son Lucas has something called chronic granulomatous disease, and it's very rare. It's a genetic disorder, and we were told that Joanna could have it too. It's a fatal illness in children that it's a white blood cell disorder. It basically means that your white blood cells don't make peroxide, which is what you need to fight infection. So he was getting these swollen lymph nodes in his neck, like the size of like a baseball. And they told us at the hospital that if he were to continue with these infections, he would need a bone marrow transplant. So we were biting our teeth for 3 months waiting to find out if Joanna had it too, and she does not. She's not even a carrier.
Oh, good.
Woo!
Yeah, what a relief.
Rejoice. And that was the day I also realized that we couldn't make any more babies together, because what would be the point? There's a 1 in 4 chance that we could bring another sick child into the world, so it just wasn't worth it for us. So there goes my 10 kids. So that sort of brings us to Lucas and his disease, and we were in and out of the hospital with him for 4 years straight, and I would say that became a tough time for Chris and I, and Chris has a neurological muscle disorder called neuromyotonia. Basically means that his muscles hurt all the time. It's really awful. So he really just was miserable, and I started to kind of just feel the passion fade. Maybe it was because we had a sick child. Maybe it was because we knew this sick child had crazy behaviors that just weren't normal, and I questioned autism at a very young age for Lucas. But after Joanna was born, things just shifted for me, and Chris and I were no longer intimate. We were just 2 best friends raising these 2 kids. I was going crazy all day as Lucas's behaviors grew, and the medical stuff, I was in fear every night. What if he dies? When can we help him? When can he have a bone marrow transplant? There was no match in the registry. It was just a really scary time. And then all of a sudden I got a phone call. And the phone call was from Boston Casting. And it was a casting agency in Boston who said, "Are you the mother of Lucas Kelly? Is he still blonde? Is he 3 years old, still blue eyes?" And I'm like, yeah, but, he's really difficult. So whatever you guys got going on, you don't want him. I put his picture up when he was a baby. Like, he's super difficult now. Like, good luck to you. And they said, no. If he is what we're looking for, we'll work with him and make it work. So I drove Lucas to Boston for an audition for the movie Patriots Day. It's a Mark Wahlberg film about the Boston Marathon bombings. And Lucas surprised not only me, but surprised the owner of Boston Casting. There were 6 other kids. No other kids could emote that they were scared and state their name and, speak eloquently into the camera. And if you try to get Lucas to do anything, he won't. For some reason in that
a kid like that.
In this element, on that day, he nailed it. And then he said to her, "Can I do it again?" And I felt like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
He's walking out, and I hear the woman say, "Give him some candy. What do we got? Give him some candy." So she ended up giving him some Hershey Kisses. And he walked out, and as I was walking out, I heard her say, "That's our kid." And that resonated with me for a moment because I grew up in acting. I always wanted to be an actress. And I always got doors slammed in my face and tons of rejection. I was the fat kid. It just wasn't, I was never right for any part. Screamed too loud, too fat, too this, too much, just too much. So I was really happy for him. And that experience was amazing. It opened up so much for us, so much joy where we didn't have any. And we did about 14 days of filming in Boston, staying in hotels. Lucas was like the king of the hot tub. They let him in it. It was wonderful. And we didn't think about him as a sick kid in those moments. And Michelle Monaghan, the actress, and Rachel Brosnahan, another actress in the film, shared our story on their social media. And I kid you not, 6 weeks to 8 weeks later, there was a full match in the bone marrow registry for Lucas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I believe that Patriots Day saved my kid's life. I really do. I think everything happens for a reason. So that process, finding the match, and then kind of planning everything out took over a year. And then you're waiting and you're wondering what's going to happen next. So let's fast forward through all that drama and get to the point where one day I decided I'm going to go to a concert. I'm going to put this, actually I helped put the concert together, so I'm going to go and just have a day of fun. I need a day of me time. Mm-hmm. And when I went there, this band, their name is Uncle Billy's Smokehouse. They're a Worcester band. They're a modern classic rock. They are amazing. They opened for Vince Gill of Motley Crue, that day. And it was just so exciting. And this man started walking towards us as we're all like kind of rejoicing after the show. And he's so cool, and he's got this great walk. And we connected eyes, and I just, oh my gosh, I couldn't take my eyes off of him. It was a comedic attraction. And I asked a little bit about him. I found out his name was Mike. He played guitar. He had 2 kids. He raised them on his own. And I asked my band friend, I said, hey, you had a hot guitar player friend? Why didn't you ever tell me about him? So fast forward to me coming back home. It was an exciting thought, but, nothing happened. I think we exchanged, like, Facebook and stuff like that. And that was when I told Chris, I was like, you know what, I'm just really not feeling this marriage. I haven't been for a while. Things have been really dull with us, as you know. And I asked him for a divorce, and he was sad, but he understood. And I didn't really know if I would ever see that Mike guy again. And then it just so happened that I played an open mic night a couple of weeks later, and he was there. And we just hit it off, and we just started talking. It was just texting, and it was beautiful. And after a while, I told Chris about him. And Chris and I got divorced, by the way, 30 days after we filed, because we waived the waiting fee because there was nothing to contest. We didn't own anything together. We had no child support agreement, no visitation agreement. We were going to live together and just make it work. So the judge was like, oh, okay, all right, well, if it doesn't work, you can come back and reassess. And I decided to pursue a relationship with Mike about 2 months later. And I just felt in my heart that was the right thing for me. So I did, and we ended up talking a lot. He's 17 years older than me, and I said, listen, you know what, I have a prolapsed uterus, and I can have a hysterectomy. And he kind of gave me this look, and I'm like, your kids are 19 and 20. I've got 3 kids. One of them's, sick, and it's kind of now or never for me. So, look at me straight and tell me you don't want to have another baby. And he just smiled. He couldn't say it. He wanted another one. He always wanted to get remarried. And I wanted a big family too. So we created Harrison out of love. And it was a beautiful, beautiful pregnancy until he decided to hurt me every day too. So let me just say that pregnancy stinks sometimes. Like, it just hurts. It's beautiful. I love when the baby moves and your belly moves and you feel the kicks, but I don't feel the leg cramps or the rib kicks or moving from side to side in bed when you're like 38 weeks pregnant and you just can't move. I don't miss any of that. But when I was pregnant, Lucas got even more sick. He began to lose blood in diapers. He was like pooping blood.
Aww.
And I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Lucas got in the tub one day and he said, Mom, I need to go to the hospital. And here's my little guy, almost 4, telling me I need to go to the hospital, and he hates hospitals. So I took him right away, and the hospital said, yes, he has a hemoglobin of 7. If it goes below 7, he needs a blood transfusion.
Yeah, that's scary.
It was awful. I thought he was dying. I thought he was turning gray. He was losing all of his energy. I was crying. Michael and Chris kept coming back and forth to the hospital, but it was me and Lucas and my pregnant belly, and I was a wreck. I just couldn't even imagine what was going to happen next. So very quickly, Boston Children's Hospital stepped in with their bone marrow match, and they got this woman from Germany to sign on right away. And we basically saved Lucas with a blood transfusion and lots of steroids for just a couple more months. And they scheduled his bone marrow transplant for October 15th. And Harrison was due October 9th. And I was like, there's just no way I can have a C-section and then go to bone marrow transplant land, like, unrecovered.
Yeah.
It's impossible. I have to have a VBAC. There's no choice for me. My doctor said, I don't agree with this. I'm not sure that this is good for you, but let's take you to the high-risk doctor and let's see. And then my midwife said, you're a great candidate. You've had a vaginal delivery before, only 1 C-section. You haven't had crazy problems other than gestational diabetes. And my high-risk doctor said, okay. He said, go get the consult and see if the doctor will take you. So I went to another hospital. This doctor believed in, the fact that my childbearing capabilities were on point, and we got approved for a VBAC. And I was like, this is amazing, because I did not think it would happen. So towards the end, about the end of September, I would say, I was starting to have early labor, which I always have early labor problems, but they don't do anything. Nothing really happens. It was tough because I kept telling her, listen, I don't have much time left. And if this results in a C-section, it's bad for both you and me. And I was very, sarcastic, but very honest with her. And she ended up swiping my membranes just 2 weeks before my due date. And it didn't do anything. And I was like, shucks. Like, I was really hoping it would put me into labor. And then, you do everything you can do. You drink raspberry leaf tea, you eat pineapple, you have sex with your husband, and you hope for the best. And sure enough, I did go into labor early on, I would say October 1st, like the last day of September, early October 1st. My labors are long. I was stuck again in the hospital because they didn't know where to put me, because I was like about 3 centimeters dilated, so I was finally starting to dilate, and then there was 3 hours with no change, and then I changed about to 4 centimeters, and that was it, and then there was no change after that whatsoever. So they were a little nervous because they knew that I would need Pitocin, so they were a little nervous that maybe that would cause me to need a C-section, but they put me in a room for 12 hours where my husband and I kind of rested, waited. Nothing really happened, and because nothing happened, but because I was starting to open, they broke my water, they did give me Pitocin, and then everything happened really, really fast, and I got really, really scared because I was like, this is too fast. So we went from resting for 12 hours to, boom, being thrown into a labor and delivery room, and then all of a sudden, I told them from the get-go I wanted an epidural. I was not a warrior. I found out last time that I'm an epidural girl 100%. So I said, where's the needle? Bring the guy in. Let's go. Let's do this because it's starting to get painful now. The contractions are real. I'm feeling them. It's really nice to feel that, but I don't want to feel it. So the guy came in, and he was the most beautiful man. He looked like Dr. Avery on Grey's Anatomy, like Jackson Avery, like just beautiful skin and blue eyes, and I'm looking at him, and I said, you're new at this, aren't you?
Oh.
And he said, "You're my fourth." And I said, "Let's make it a good one. So let's do this." And I could not control the fear. I have very high anxiety, but he got it in, and it only kind of helped a little. I was so shocked. It didn't numb everything for me, and I was really hoping that it would. I've had a problem in the past with Lucas. I think I was only numb on one side. They rolled me, and then it filtered out, and it was okay. This time I said to the doctor and the nurse in the room, I said, "Guys, I really feel like I have to poop." And they said, "Don't push." And I said, "I'm not pushing. I understand that this is baby number 4, but I'm just telling you that there's a severe amount of pressure down there, and I'm not doing anything, and this hurts really bad, and the epidural's not really working." And I started to get worked up, and my husband all of a sudden pulled my hair. And I looked at him with these big eyes, and I'm like, "Can you do that again?" And I kid you not, if this can be my one secret that I give to the world, ladies, if you like your hair pulled when you are having contractions, it is the best distraction because it almost makes you feel pleasure instead of pain. So I just want to give my husband major props for that, like, intuitive moment.
Yes.
So he did not get yelled at. He was praised for that, and I think it's wonderful. But again, with the feeling of needing to push, I was so scared that things were like maybe rupturing, like maybe things just weren't working out so well. And that's why everything was happening so fast, and that's why he was coming down. And I said, "No, I feel him coming." So a nurse quickly checked, and she said, "Oh, that's the baby's head." And the doctor was in less than a second.
Wow.
It was so fast. So that epidural, I might have had it for 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And Harrison was kind of pushing himself out. He was like, "I'm ready. Let's do this. I want to meet you. Welcome to the world, Harrison." However, he was harder than I thought he was going to be to push out. You would think after 3 vaginal births, 2, this would be my 3rd, but you think you just be able to just pop it out. And honestly, it was no joke. He was my hardest delivery. I pushed so hard, and I remember not being able to push harder. Mike held my legs. He helped me push. If it wasn't for him, I don't even think I would have been able to get that kid out. When he did come out, it was about 5 to 7 pushes and then some mini pulsating pushes. Took about 20 to 25 minutes for him to come out. So it wasn't too bad, but in the moment it felt really, really like he was stuck.
Forever. Yeah.
He was facing up. He was sunny side up, just like Lucas was. I guess that's how my boys like to come out.
So you delivered him posterior?
Yes, and Lucas was too.
Wow.
But yes, Harrison came out facing up, which is why it must have been hard for me to push because it's unnatural that way, of course. It was great. He was perfect. I had a little tear in my bladder wall, actually, and she sewed that up, and that was it. He nursed right away. He looked around the whole entire room. He was so alert at just a week early. I was just so in awe, and he was 9 pounds and 3 ounces.
Wow.
And they were telling us the whole time that he was average size, probably 7, maybe 8 pounds. He was a big boy.
Oh, little chunky man.
And I remember crying, and I looked at my doctor, and I knew she was leaving because that's what doctors do. They're in and out. "Here's your baby. I'm done now." She sat with me for a moment, and I cried, and I thanked her. And it was not just a thanks of, delivering this baby, but it was a thank you for this VBAC that was so necessary. I couldn't have had it any other way. Like, it just couldn't happen any other way. Like, I tear up thinking about it. It was just so powerful, and everything lined up for me, and it worked out fabulously. And he was perfectly healthy, and I was fine. And my recovery was really, really great until about day 5 when I started to feel more pain and I started bleeding more again. And I said, "What's going on? Like, what is this?" We rushed back to the doctor. She took us in right away because she knew we were headed to Boston that weekend for Lucas.
Yeah.
To go to the, Boston Children's. And wow, it was an eye-opener for me because I knew something was wrong. I wanted to ignore it, but I also knew I couldn't because I had to make sure I was healthy so that I could take care of all these kids, right? So
yeah.
Harrison decided to leave a piece of his placenta behind.
So
yeah. I had to have another
retained placenta.
Yeah, and it was a big chunk. It actually didn't come out with them. They didn't see it. After I awoke from my surgery, I went to the bathroom and it fell out of me, and I showed it to the nurse, and the nurse took it, and it was larger than a quarter, and thicker than a quarter of a centimeter. It was like a beef jerky. It was pretty interesting, but
wow.
I knew that was the piece. That was the missing piece that was stuck. So sure enough, they tested it. It was placenta. They did another ultrasound before I left. Everything looked like it was out, so they let me go home, and I finally was able to start recovering. So we had to go the very next day to Boston for a kidney test for Lucas. It's called a GFR, where they test your kidneys to make sure you can handle chemo. And I was in a wheelchair. My ankles were swollen like tree trunks because they didn't want me to walk. And I said, listen, I have no time to recover from childbirth. I just had a VBAC. I'm fine. I was high on my VBAC. So it was a lot of resting the next couple of days. But then that Sunday, we were in Boston and back in Boston, and Lucas was admitted, and Harrison was able to come with us. And we stayed in Boston for about 4 months. The transplant took about 4 weeks.
Wow. Wow.
But we had to stay close by for lots of appointments afterwards. And then we were in strict isolation for 9 whole months before they gave Lucas the medical clearance that, hey, you're healthy and this worked.
Wow. What?
Yeah.
What a journey. Holy cow.
It's crazy.
That's a long time.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So your whole family was just uprooted.
Yes,
pretty
absolutely.
much.
Michael, Harrison, myself, and Lucas were the primary Boston kiddo, the kiddo team. And Chris came in and out as much as he possibly could. But Joanna is his little princess, so he had to be home for her as much as possible. And our teenager, Rachel, was helping out at home with Joanna, but she also had school. So Mike's daughter, Destiny, and Mike's son, Danny, also helped out with childcare and chores and keeping the house afloat while we were gone. So it was a total team family effort. And now, we've all been living together for over a year, and it just works for us. I couldn't imagine having 2 different homes, paying 2 different mortgages. We created a village for Lucas, and there is no reason to change it, like this.
Yeah.
Lucas is an autistic kid. We finally got the diagnosis in May, and he's got ADHD and a mood disorder, and he's been through too much. He's just been through more than any adult.
A lot.
Even,
Yeah.
Just too much. So we can't do the divorce shuffle, I call it. We're not going to bounce the kids from house to house, and we have hopes and dreams, and we'd like to grow, and Mike and I are becoming certified yoga instructors, and I am now a doula, a stillbirth and bereavement doula, because that's as close as I can get to another baby. Mike has closed the shop. So, yeah, that's just us. I'm here with my husband, my ex-husband, and our combined 6 kids in one house, and just kind of living our dream, as we like to say, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Wow, what a crazy journey. And like you said, each birth was so different. Like every single birth was so different. Yeah. But I mean, you have such awesome stories with each one. So I love it.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that Lucas, he had the cord wrapped around his neck for twice. It was coiled, and he was like gray when he came out, but he was fine.
Oh
he
my gosh.
up on his own. But yeah, he scared us a little. But yeah, I mean, they were all so different, and I think that's what's going to make me a great doula. Is to be able to offer a non-judgmental, all kinds of births, type of experience. And man, listening to myself explain this whole story is really surreal. It's like, have I really been through that much?
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so
a lot.
much. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the therapy session. That was good to get that out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we love hearing your story.
We love hearing your stories. Seriously, we love hearing all these different stories, and each one, you know, they have all their little unique things about each one, and you know, it just goes to show what women in general like do and can do in their life.
And can I just say, with a 9-pound baby, if anyone has been listening to our podcast so far, if you don't know that you can birth a big baby vaginally, then you need to listen again, because I feel like all our listeners or all our storytellers have babies that are pushing 9 pounds or past 9 pounds. Like, it's kind of just a given. I think, well, not everybody, but man, like, those big babies, they come out and your babies are posterior. Like, really, that is just such a cool thing when so many women get told, oh, my baby's too big, my pelvis is too small, and they have to have C-sections. But that's not true.
No, you don't need a C-section. You need a doctor who believes in your abilities to birth, or a good midwife.
Yes.
My husband has a cousin from Canada who birthed a 13-pound baby vaginally, and she was fine.
Holy smokes.
Okay, now that's fine. That girl needs a trophy.
Yes.
You know, our bodies are made to push out big babies. You know, it's just what we do. We can do this.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was gonna kind of tell all of our listeners who may not have heard about our blog yet, but we also have a blog that we write, and we post weekly blogs, and we actually have a blog specific to that, and it's actually titled "Get That Big Baby Out of Your Vagina."
Yeah, I made that title up.
Yes,
yeah, I did.
Oh, I love it.
That's
awesome.
There's 5 really, really good tips on how to avoid a cesarean, especially when you've got a big baby. And so for all of our listeners, if you are worried about the size of your baby, definitely go check out our blog. It's utahvbaclink.com/blog, and it is Get That Big Baby Out of Your Vagina.
Yep, and you can do it after a C-section too.
Absolutely.
Yes. And you did it with big baby and posterior, which is like extra brownie points to you, because, you know, a lot of the times that posterior, like you said, it's just an unnatural way for a baby to come down through that pelvis, but you did it
get a little
twice.
stuck sometimes. Yeah, I did it twice, you know, and I think the best thing you can try to do in all that, you know, hectic moment is try to relax and just imagine your baby coming out and coming down and focusing on that, because that's, I mean, that's where they're going to go. They know too, you know, like Harrison was on his own way out. Some babies do that too. I've read some stories where moms don't push and the babies just come out.
Exactly. I love it. Seriously, Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing your stories, all of them, today. And
you're so welcome.
And just a reminder for our listeners, if you want to go over and read more about their story, again, her website is blendedfamilyadventure.com, and she has an Instagram as well, and it's Electric Lindsayland. And Lindsay is Linzy, so Electric Lindsay Land, and that's her Instagram. So you'll have to go over and check her Instagram out. And are you going to be sharing yoga stuff on that page as well, or?
Yes, I'm already started. I can't wait to get Michael and his pictures going on there, because he, you know, having a husband and wife instructor duo, like, this is just going to be magic. So yes, lots of yoga, lots of breastfeeding, and lots of just this big blended family of ours.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We cannot wait to share this episode with everyone.
Everyone out there, check out our blog, especially today. We're going to have some quick facts about VBAC on the blog that you can just take to educate yourself and help you make a good decision. So make sure, again, Megan said it before, we've got lots of great stuff on there, utahvbaclink.com/blog.
We are always looking for more inspiring stories. To share your story or possibly be on one of our podcasts, post on social media with the hashtag #WeVBAC and tag @the VBAC link, or contact us from our website.
Be sure to rate us and share and leave your reviews. We are excited to hear what you think. For families local to Utah, be sure to check out our website, utahvbaclink.com, for more information on our VBAC childbirth classes and doula services. Thank you so much for listening. We are excited for you to begin your journey with us.